We came to Doraville after we were contacted by a resident who had received some outrageous property code tickets. And after we started investigating, we realized that Doraville was one of the most prolific ticket writers in the country, and certainly in the Atlanta area. And that was according to an investigation by the local newspaper here. Hilda Brucker was fined $100 and sentenced to criminal probation because of the condition of this driveway. Hilda was hauled into Doraville Municipal Court without warning and told she faced 3 criminal misdemeanor charges for the condition of her property.
I was called into court with no warning, and I was sentenced for having cracks and crumbles in my driveway, which is so ridiculous and ludicrous. No one ever asked me to fix the driveway. This is a neighborhood of very old driveways. Who does that?
And you received a criminal citation for the driveway?
Yes, it was. It was a criminal charge against me.
I then met Hilda's neighbor, Jeff Thornton, who was ticketed for a stack of wood which he used for woodworking.
So this is the remains of that wood pile. It's deplenished quite a bit since then because I've used it for woodworking or cooking, or I've made a few birdhouses out of this wood because the roof looks really neat with the rough wood. It ran along the fence, and it was nice and neatly stacked. And actually some of it had a tarp over it, so you couldn't see how ugly it looked apparently.
Even before this happened to me, I would be out on my morning walk and I would see code enforcement officers skulking around people's front yards, taking pictures.
And Jeff, I saw you nodding.
Yes, I've seen that as well. I've been the recipient of it as well. Just see them just taking pictures of my yard and say, hey, what's going on?
Doraville is notorious for its speed traps and other law enforcement activities because it sits on the Atlanta Beltway, the perimeter, which gives its police the opportunity to ticket commuters who are making their way to the Atlanta area. And the city is heavily reliant on the fines and fees it gets from those tickets. Doraville relies on fines and fees to generate about a quarter of its general operating budget. That means that city officials and law enforcement officers have a financial incentive to ticket and convict both property owners and drivers. A judge can't have a financial interest in a case that comes before him, and a prosecutor can't have a financial interest in prosecuting the cases that come before them. They have to be neutral government officers.
You shouldn't feel threatened to the point where you're almost afraid to drive in certain areas, not because it's dangerous, but because you might just be a trigger for somebody who's out there patrolling to make money. If you have a city, you need to be able to fund the city, and it shouldn't be something where you have to penalize your citizens or people who are visiting the city in order to be able to keep the city up and running.
Across the country, we see courts and cities that continue to use their criminal justice systems to generate revenues. This practice is unconstitutional, and the Institute for Justice has filed suit here in another leg in its journey to stop it.
It put me into a very difficult, hard financial state.
This probably doesn't look like an act of civil disobedience to you. In fact, it probably looks like any other Saturday afternoon barbecue. But in Pagedale, Missouri, The simple act of barbecuing a few hot dogs in your front yard with a beer in your hand and a few buddies gather around is illegal and could send me to jail for up to 3 months.
I'm Justin Wilson with the Institute for Justice. Today, I'm in the town of Pagedale, Missouri, to meet up with our team of lawyers who've been working on the ground for the last 6 months. We're here to get to the bottom of why this town is ticketing, fining, and even jailing its residents for ridiculous things and using that revenue to fund the city.
So I'm going to meet up with Vincent and Valerie. They've lived in Pagedale for the last 18 years. They have a modest home, they raise their kids here, and in the last couple of years, they've racked up numerous fines. In order to make ends meet, Valerie works nights at a hospital, and Vincent's a veteran.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey Valerie, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Thanks for having me.
When I got this house, I knew it was going to be hard work. But what I saw in this house, the potential that I saw in this house, was what my dream was for a starter house, because everybody have a starter house.
Vincent and Valerie have received over a dozen tickets so far. The issues have ranged from not having the appropriate screen door on their back porch to not having curtains on their windows. They've even received a ticket for having too many people over when they had a small backyard barbecue for someone's birthday.
They're always walking around people's property, not only mine, but friends of mine also. And I've been outside my friend's house, and the guy walked through the driveway and walk all around the building and come back out. And he has his little camera and his little clipboard and taking notes. And evidently, he's just trying to find some chores to charge someone with.
To keep my head above water, I literally had to go out and get me some loans. These are the loans. See, these loans, I get these loans to pay Pagedale. These pay Pagedale because that way I can take my working check and pay the regular bills. This is a part of life now. This is the cycle. This is my life now.
And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, Vincent and Valerie have even been handcuffed and arrested for reasons related to their tickets. In Pagedale, you can get fined for having a basketball hoop in your front yard, a satellite dish on the front of your roof, or parking a bike in front of your house. It's illegal to not have a screen on every door and window, or hedges over 3 feet high. You can also be fined for having a barbecue in your front yard, unless it's a national holiday. And if you're manning the grill, you better not have a beer in your hand, because that's illegal too.
Pagedale has actually increased the number of non-traffic related tickets since 2010 by 495%. When a city is deriving almost 20% of its revenue from fines and fees revolving around tickets, the city is creating an unconstitutional incentive for city personnel to ticket, convict, and fine defendants in violation of the Due Process Clause.
This needs to stop. My simple life, my simple happy life is now miserable.